Hey everyone, I am actually in New Orleans right now at an academic conference. I'm on the 21st floor of the Marriott Hotel, and I can still hear the music and the drums from Bourbon Street a couple blocks away. So it's a hoppin' city. I ran out of time before I left on Wednesday to get my videos up, so I'm using YouTube and my cell phone. So I'll make this quick, even though I had this whole thing about doing it in the French Quarter because we're watching a French film this week, but didn't get around to it. So you'll just have to envision the connection. Beauty and the Beast, La Belle et la Bête, is it's an extraordinary film. I love this film. It's a hallucination. It's a fever dream. It's a fairy tale, right? This is a film that was made right after World War II in France. France had been devastated by the Nazi occupation and the fight to end it and to restore the Western democracy. So a lot of this film is a escape. It's a very much an escapist film, right? It's a fairy tale. It takes place in this magical kingdom with monsters and magic mirrors and all sorts of things. And Cocteau is using film as best he can to present that magic on the screen. Pay attention, for example, at one point Belle is drifting down the hallway, and she's literally drifting. You can see that she's not walking, she's gliding. She's floating down the hallway for no apparent reason. There's no explanation, and that's that's a characteristic of fairy tales, right? Magic just is. But it was very much an escape for a people, a nation that was really had borne the brunt of a lot of the horrors of World War II. It's a really extraordinary accomplishment when you think of how devastated the economy was and how little money there was for anything except for necessities. And here is a surrealist artist making a crazy fantasy film. And yet he really does make a masterpiece. And this is a really good example of the idea in world cinema of film as an art form, as something that exists because it needs to, because art for art's sake, right? As opposed to that more mercenary view in the United States. Now, the previous week you watched Citizen Kane, which is another good example of an, we'll talk about this in a week or so, but the auteur theory, the author theory, auteur is French, but the idea that the filmmaker, usually the director, that this is his own vision, and it usually is his, especially at this point, as opposed to a studio film, right? A committee film. This is Paramount makes it and just picks people to more or less follow directions. So Orson Welles does this with Citizen Kane, another extraordinary film, hits the top of the greatest films of 20th century or greatest films of all time lists, but in large part, it sort of destroyed his career. Orson Welles was never as successful as he was then. Hollywood wasn't designed or interested in furthering one man's artistic vision. And for a man like Orson Welles, who saw film as, that's what it had to do for him, he didn't fit. He didn't fit into the Hollywood system. He didn't succeed. In fact, he went to Europe and made films in like the 60s and 70s. But in contrast, you have La Belle et la Bête, which is this quintessential French film. It's all about the visuals, right? The artistic visuals on the screen, but also the psychological depth. I mean, this is not a children's film, even though it is a fairy tale, right? This is not Disney. This is very psychological. It's very sexual, at least sexually suggestive, and just very challenging, right? It's not a film that's where you can easily understand what's going on. You have to think about it. And I hope you do. And I hope you enjoy it. And I look forward to hearing your comments on it in week 7. Are we in week 7 already?